All right, so the project we're going to start today is we want to try to clean up underneath these workbenches, clean up that cabinet a little bit. So we drew up a little rolling cart that hopefully will be able to take a lot of our tools and nuts and bolts and screws, get them organized, and make it a little easier to take things in and out of here. So I picked up some of these Harbor Freight tool organizers and some caster wheels, sheet of plywood, and we're gonna see if we could make a cart that'll fit under that space and make it a little easier to work. All right, we got it mostly cleared out down there. I got a couple of these little blocks I got to take out just from the old shelving, and then we'll get measuring and make sure it's gonna fit, and then we can start cutting. All right, so we got the sheet of 3/4 inch maple out. What we're gonna do is do all our cuts now. If you don't know, this is a track. It kind of clips on. You get them at Harbor Freight. They'll cut 4x8 sheets down the 4-foot way, and it gives you a guide to run your circular saw down if you don't have a table saw big enough, or you don't own a track saw. They're pretty great. You know, a couple bucks to get straight cuts. It's definitely worth it. All right, so now we got the 4x8 sheet down, broken into mostly the size it's going to be. These all have to get cut down a little bit, but we have the top, the bottom, and the 3 uprights. We'll just break these down to 29.5, and we can start assembling. All right, so what we're going to try is we have our end piece and our middle piece. So we're just butting them together, making sure that we're flush down here. We have that same guide. We just clamped them together. I have it marked off. I have a router with a 3/4 inch bit in it. So we're going to router both the channels at the same exact time. So hopefully when we assemble this, we don't run into any issues with height or clearance problems. Also, I don't think I talked about it before. A lot of videos when you watch, people will make channels to have these organizers sit, and it'll just rest on that little lip. I'm not really thrilled with the idea of that. There's not much up there. I'm sure it's fine, but we're gonna do ours a little bit different. Where I think I'm still not gonna make a full shelf, but we'll probably have a 2-inch overhang so that there's just a little bit more for these boxes to sit on. And that'll make up for any variations in the molding sizes, because I have noticed that some of the earlier ones that I have are slightly different than the new ones. So hopefully that'll accommodate. And I think once we're glued and we send a couple of nails into it, it should be strong enough to hold. So before I forget, I'll make sure when you're measuring off of the guide to measure from either the back or the front, depending on which way you're cutting. I got it wrong the first time. Not a big deal. What I'm just going to end up doing is making it a small case on the bottom, then 3 big ones, and then 2 small ones. So it can be adapted. It's, you know, it is what it is. Just make sure you take the time to remember. Also, the depth of your cut. I started out by cutting about halfway through this 3/4. Realized about halfway through that cut that my router just can't keep up with that kind of demand. So I shallowed it a little bit. Again, not a huge deal. We'll fill it in at the end. It's, you know, it's not a showpiece. It's just to hold some cases. But let's keep going. All right, we got the bottom half all attached, glued and nailed. I kind of just used the boxes and held them in, found a space in it, seemed pretty good, and just did it that way, you know. There was, I don't think any reason to overcomplicate it and try to make it exact. I used them to keep everything square, shot nails in. It seems to work pretty good. So right now I'm gonna stand this up, same process, put a top on it, and then maybe we'll do the back so that it's nice and square, rigid, and then we'll put some wheels on. All right, so we got the top on, test fitted, make sure all the boxes fit in their spots. It does. Now we just got to put it back on, and that'll should tighten everything up so we lose all the wiggle. And then we'll talk about that second spot, because things tend to change, at least when I'm building. So I started out with, yeah, let me grab them. With these plans, which called for 1, 2, 3, 4 shelves, but we're gonna change that. As soon as I built it, I realized that, you know, a 5-inch shelf that's 20 inches deep is pretty useless. You're never gonna be able to reach in the back and get everything. And, you know, if you can't see it, you're gonna forget you have it, and then you won't use it. So I think we're gonna go with just 2 shelves, but we'll figure that out in a minute. All right, we got the back put on. That was pretty straightforward. Just measure, cut, you know, make sure you're square. Send a few staples into it. It's glued, so that should be fine. We're gonna go for the wheels now. Same thing, pretty straightforward. Right in the corners. Probably grab some washers to disperse the load a little bit, and we'll get back with you once we get it flipped over, and we'll talk about that shelf. I think what I want to do is try to get my air compressor to fit in there so that it's just a little easier to move around the shop when I have to. And then we'll do a single shelf in here. And then we'll have our compressor, a couple of ratchet boxes stacked up, and then a second shelf for everything else that sort of doesn't fit anywhere else in this place. All right, so here we are. I think that this is going to be it for this build. It looks pretty good. Definitely functions the way I needed it to. We ended up going 19 inches on that last shelf, so I had a place for my air compressor. Realistically, you can get this done with 2 sheets of plywood. The 3/4 inch maple that I got, and then the backing is just some cheap 1/2 inch that I happen to have laying around, a set of caster wheels. I mean, depending on your lumber prices, around $100 to get this done, and I think it cleans everything up, definitely makes it a little more portable. I'll take you guys in, I'll show you a little bit of a close-up on how we did all this. But the beauty of this is you customize it to your own shop. I just happen to have 4 feet, but you know, it can be scaled either way. So let's take a look at the way these brackets work over here. All right, so you can see here was our router joint. I messed up on the first one. I ended up trying to take about half the depth off, which I quickly realized you don't need to do. So make sure when you set your router, you really only need to go down 1/8 of an inch. It's only really to index these, which are just 2-inch pieces from the scrap that was left over when we made the rest of the cart. And that's kind of it. The drawers, they slide right on there. There's holding on to a lot of them, so you don't really have to worry about, you know, just holding the edge of the case like some of the builds are doing. And the last feature of this, the reason that we put it all on wheels, made it so we had a 4-foot space on top. So when we're pulling stuff out, we have a place to put everything, grab whatever you need, leave it out while you're working on the workbenches, or I have another workbench behind me over here, and you put everything back, and then it just tucks back away at the end. And all right, so that's it for this build. As you can see, it's in. We're done. Hopefully, we'll see you for the next build. Also, before I forget, everyone should build an apple box for their shop. It's super simple. Tons of videos online how to do this. It's a great way to use up scrap wood that you have laying around. And you'll find a use for it everywhere, whether you're working on cars or just doing general carpentry. They're great to have laying around. All right, guys.